Welcome to another unboxing video from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander, and today we're taking a look at Night Fighter Ace, a brand new game from Compass Games. And you can see here it says Air Defense over Germany, 1943-1944. Now, this is a solitaire game designed by Greg Smith. You know Greg Smith, he designed The Hunters, Silent Victory, The Hunted, he's working on Beneath the Med. Done a lot of these solo games that we all know and love, and this is basically the newest iteration of that. It's got some very familiar feel to something like Silent Victory, but it is an entirely different game. And it's, you know, there's a lot of love and hard work that went into this. Grant and I met Greg at WBC, and totally genuine guy, had a great time. I actually played this with him, and he watched us crash and burn. Quite literally, I think I crashed my plane before it landed. It was terrible. I was awful luck, but he was a great guy, showed us his game, and this is it. So when I get this unboxed so you guys can see what you get inside. So the box, Compass Games, has some info on the back about the game itself, and we'll just kind of crack it open and get going. So a couple decks of cards to get started with, which we'll get there in a bit. Pilot cards, combat cards. We'll look at those in a second. Got some dice. It's like we have here a D10 and 2D6. We'll use those later. And then we have a whole lot of cardboard and paper here. So these are the rules of play. Again, this is great artwork here. Loving this. So this is a non-gloss. This is matte finish paper. This rule book looks like it has sheets of counters. Let's see, 24, 25 pages. These aren't rules necessarily. Rules. This is a optional rules. These are rules here. Okay, everything here is designer notes and some historical stuff. So really, 17 pages of rules, one of which is optional. I got some dense text here, but some diagrams and pictures as well of what's going on. So it should be easy to digest. Having played this game, I can tell you, if you've played Silent Victory or whatever, very easy to pick up and learn. There's a lot of things which are familiar. The way that you roll through tables and kind of the movement, those kind of aspects. The game has a lot of nuance to it. I want to stress that because, you know, the way that the game's reduced down to what you get, there's a lot of really cool things that were done to simulate the size and scope and scale of the game and how to organize all of that. Because something that the Night Fighters came up against were things like their fuel range. It's not like a sub that could go out for weeks on end on this kind of patrol. They could only make a flight, and it could only be a certain amount of minutes and hours long at most. And so there's some really cool things that we'll get to here of how that was done, and I just wanted to highlight that there's a lot of research, a lot of hard work went into this game. So here you have, this is your pilot and crew status. This is a little bit of just kind of flash here. This is a holding card for if you have one of these ace cards, which were these ace pilots here earlier. You can choose one of those to try and beat or to try and play as. If you gain medals and ranks and different bits and pieces, those are you just pin them on your uniform, so to speak. This is your little dress-up doll, he called it. And then down here you have this experience and skills track. And this is something that's cool and a little bit different. You could gain certain abilities as your crew's leveled up, so to speak, in Silent Victory, but here these skills and bits and pieces are a bit more in-depth, a little bit. You can gain more of them over time, as well as having your other crew members of your Night Fighter. They're going to level up too and get better. So nice, and a nice track to keep that in. You have to just write it down on a piece of paper. So that's pretty cool. Had fun with that. This is kind of your target map chart. So these are the enemy bomber profiles that you'll be flying against. And this is you choosing, how and when you're going to attack down here. And there's a little weather track and some initiative chart here. But basically, when you attack, when you literally fire bursts of your forward machine guns or your Schrager music guns from up top, you'll roll damage and you'll do damage to certain parts of it. If you can start taking out engines or fuel tanks, planes might explode or they might just go down. And you're trying to, goal is to shoot down as many planes as possible. What I will tell you is that in a given kind of night mission, you might shoot down one plane. If you were to shoot down 2 planes in a single outing, that would probably be very, very lucky. So this isn't a game kind of like Silent Victory. It's I go on a patrol. Oh, I find this huge thing. I take out 3 or 4 boats. I move to the next space. I take out a boat. It's not like that. It's got a different feel. This is I go on a mission. Do I make an encounter? Do I actually find them in the dark? Oh, I do. Okay, and it's like very, very fast and furious. You shoot. Am I dead? No. Are they dead? Yes. That kind of thing. So, and it's an aggregate over a long campaign is how you measure yourself as an ace. If you look here, some of these aces. We'll just open this up. He says, here we go. These are all historically researched. Again, a testament to the work went into it. A ton of these to play as, all throughout the 1943-94 campaign. This guy had 65 kills. So if you want to play as him and do better than he did, 65 kills you got to get to. This guy only had 4 kills, for example. But some other bits and pieces. 9 kills, 9 kills, 7 kills, 5 kills, 27 kills. So 50 kills. So some of these guys were just shot down so many planes, but some of them didn't. And it's trying to do better than they did. And so it's playing these guys over a long campaign is how you're going to get down that many planes. So that's really cool. Nice. I love these kind of a track to keep it all on. Saves a lot of mess on the table. Here's what I was talking about that you might be used to with Silent Victory. These is kind of the charts that you roll on. So if it's August 1943, I roll a d12, so 2d6, and this is kind of where the air raid's going off. And it's in these areas, and this is what I wanted to talk about a little bit. So for example, if they end up raiding Berlin, so Berlin is over here, and so you would kind of mark that on the map. And let me just show you on this thing. So if this is the plane that I'm flying, it depends where I'm based out of. So if I'm based out of Munich, this is kind of my fuel track, and this is such a cool way to do it. And I say that because I played Bomber Command, where tracking your fuel is done with a series of counters on a track, and it's awful. Honestly, it's like so much maintenance to remember, and if you forget one, it really imbalances the game. So if I'm in Munich, but that air raid was in Berlin that I have to go to, I have to go all the way here. I'm basically spending all my fuel, and I'm going to get one turn over Berlin to even attack. And if I roll and I miss, like I don't find them because my radar's out, then I just go and land. So this is a really cool way of tracking, and this is all on a kind of a sliding scale. So if I'm in Berlin, I got Berlin right here. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 turns of trying to fight and fly. So I might find a couple of planes during that turn and be able to shoot them down if I'm in good, if I'm doing well. Or if I'm kind of somewhere in the middle, like if I'm French Nachtjäger 4 and I've got to get to Munich, I'm going to spend half my fuel going to Munich, and then I've got like 2 or 3 turns to do it. So this is a really neat concept, and I know he spent a lot of work doing that. And I wanted to highlight that because this isn't just a random chart. It's a really, really well thought out, and having this kind of fuel system redux makes this game, it just adds a little bit of extra depth and richness to the game. I think that it's so awesome. But yeah, rolling a chart to find out where you're going, and then it's kind of rolling charts to find out, do you find anything? If you do, then you do your attacks on the attack chart, which I put over wherever I put it, over here. Do your attacks, and then you might move on. You might just roll again to try and find more planes, but it's rolling through charts, doing damage. They get to shoot back at you, and then you might take damage. And all of that's done through rolling through those charts, at least mostly. Now, these are all of your different planes that you can play as. By the way, an absolute ton of planes to play as. And I think I want to say are these doubled down? They might not be. But it is possible. It doesn't look like it. Looks like these are all fairly different. You can play this game co-op. That's kind of what we did. So really you can kind of tailor this game to what you want. There's all these different planes and iterations. Now, if you look, this has a prestige level 3. So you have to be prestige level 3 to even be able to get promoted to fly that. And if we look back on here, your prestige level is going to go up based on experience, based on shooting stuff down, based on any medals that you might accrue. So, you know, prestige level 2, 4, so then you start getting into prestige level 6, and it's only available in November 1943, so before that, the technology that's on the front of these wasn't even made. So, you know, the better you get, the better planes you get, the more you might do. You can get into some really cool things. So that's something that's really, really awesome, having a progression through those as well. And there's an absolute ton. So if you look, a lot of the differences are in things like the weapons that you've got here. So here you've got rear guns, forward cannons, as well as having a main radar, and you've got looks like blind approach receiver as well. Whereas this one only has 2 different forward cannons, which have limited ammunition. If you looked here, these have an unlimited ammunition for these forward guns here. But this also has a warning device as well as a main radar and that blind approach. So there's a lot of different configurations to what you've got, and some of the different planes have the damage chart down here. And this is something I wanted to take a look at here. Is your damage chart is very, very limited. If you think about Silent Victory, you take a damage, you know, you might fill it with water, but you can pump it out. Or something breaks, but you have a chance to fix it. No one's getting out and fixing a wing when you're flying a plane in the middle of Germany at night. So, you know, you get hit in the engine, bummer for you. You get hit in the engine twice, your engine goes out. You get hit in the fuel tanks, you might just blow up and die. So things can get really, really hairy really quickly. So you have to be careful about how and when you choose to attack. And then hopefully you roll well and hopefully you do a lot of damage. Speaking of damage, what we're going to take a look at are these combat cards. We're going to crack these open here real quick so we can take a little look. Alright. And this is something that's very, very new to these style of games. Greg went to a deck of cards, and the deck of cards is your damage. And this way, they were able to build in a lot more layers and nuance for the weapons that you were employing. So this is a really, really interesting kind of chart here. So what you do is you just pull a card, and this is what you're looking at for your firepower. So if you think about the plane that you've got, let's say I'm flying this Dornier 335A6. If I'm forwarding, I can shoot both my forward cannons together if I wanted to. This has a 6 value, this is a 6, so I've got a 12. So I can insert the 12 chart here. This means I'm going to do 5 hits. Okay, seems simple enough. And that can be modified by a few different things. If I'm only firing one of my cannons, I'm only doing 3 hits. And the other part here is when you start getting into things like this guy, where I'm firing 10 and 6, I'm firing them together, I can get up into 16, which does GP, which is like a grouper result. That's really, really good, because I'm going to do a lot more damage that way. So you want to get your numbers as high as possible. Now the problem is when you risk doing this, and you can do like extended fire, where you like hold down that fire button and waste all your rounds. Your guns might jam, bad things might happen to you. So this is actually a gun jam card, so if you pull that, we roll for random if more than one firing. If I'm firing more than one weapon, I roll a dice, I might actually lose one of my weapons, so that would be very bad. Defensive hits is 0 on this card. So this also shows you defensive fire. Defensive fire, 2 hits, 0 hits, 2 hits, 2 hits, 3 hits. So you're looking at those hits at the bottom for return fire. 4 hits, devastating. So you're going to do damage. Again, I do 5 hits. I roll 5 times on the enemy bomb damage table, which I then consult onto, where did I put it? I've lost it again. Here it is. So I'm going to do 5 damage. Now, 5 damage on a Mosquito over here is probably going to take it out. 5 damage on a Lancaster, however, they can absorb a lot of damage up here before they start getting into inoperable systems. Even the Wellington over here can take a lot of hits as well. The other thing that you might look at, whereas you compare that to, those 4 hits that you might take on defensive fire, that might down you very easily. And that happened a lot to me because my rolling and my card drawing is terrible. But that's something to expect in this game. You might not survive. Like, the casualty rates were terrifically high on both sides, so it's much more likely for you to get downed. That's something that we kind of noticed. And what that does to me is it keeps the game fun and it keeps it on a knife edge. Each time you draw a card, it is terrifyingly tense. What we'll do is we'll crack on here. There's not a lot else in here, so we have Night Fighter Ace Sortie log sheet. And these are double-sided, and there's an absolute ton of them. So, unless you're someone who's going to play this every day for the rest of your lives, there's a lot in there. You're going to be hard-pressed to get through that, especially if you're playing those long campaigns. And then you've got a single sheet of counters. If you look here, you've got these great Night Fighters counters up here that you're going to be moving along those tracks. KIA damaged, wounded counters, some numbers for tracking things. Here you start to get into these medals and promotions that you might have. These are different counters here. These are skills that you've got. And then you've got, this is kind of your mark where you are based out of and which Nachyiga group you're part of and where your airports are and things like that. So, these are a lot of administrative counters that you're just going to move along those tracks. Nice and easy. These are good, your compass ones. These are, the thin white, the kind of white card counters. So I'll just punch those and get those bagged nice and easy. But that's really it. That's what's in the game. And again, like all of these solo games, you get as much out of it as you put in. And I know that Greg Smith put a ton into this, and he is very, very excited for us to play this. This is a total blast. I mean, I loved playing this at WBC, and we're going to sit here and play this over and over and over again, because it's quick. The missions are literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spots on a mission. Of those 5, depending on where the target is, an average of 3 spots, really, and you might find 1 or 2, because it's actually difficult to even find contact. That's what a lot of times they found, was finding that bomb stream, and they had a hard time doing it. And you have a hard time in this game as well. But once you start getting to the late war where you got those radars that give you assists, if you play co-op, like, you get contact, it's easier to find contact the next time. There's just some really fun stuff in this game. And there's a ton of it. You saw how many different planes there are. And there's only so much variation on the plane, but the nuances are there, where flying it will feel very different. The one thing that this game presents, which I wanted to kind of highlight, and we talked a little bit about, it's called the Schrager music. And it's a special type of cannon that these Night Fighters had. And it was fixed. It was a fixed cannon on top, and it was at like a 40-degree angle. And what they would do is they'd find the Lancasters or find the bombers, and they would literally, they'd kind of fly underneath them. They'd just fly right under their wings, and they would fire that cannon and literally just saw the wing off, basically, so they would fall out of the sky. So when you start getting into the Schrager music here, which you can see has a 12 value, you only have limited ammunition because those are heavy cannons, but you do it and you just blow them away because you start getting into this really heavy firepower on those combat cards. Like the Schrager music alone does 3 damage. And the way that the hits and the damage are assigned is something that's really, really awesome. So I think here, let's see, is it on this side? No. Where is it? Bomber damage. So basically, what you're going to do is you take aim at what it is that you're trying to attack and damage. So with that chart that had the bombers on it, here you are, you're attacking these. What you're doing is you're choosing to say, I'm going to attack the airframe, for example, or I'm going to attack the wing, and you specify which wing. So that's kind of your target. I'm trying to damage you know, the starboard wing, for example. So you're going to do all your damage, and you roll on the chart to see how badly you did it. So if you aimed at the wing, you're going to roll a d10. On a 1 through 3, you damage the wing. On a 4, airframe, 5, control, 6, and all these kind of things. If you aim at the gunner or the airframe, you're going to do airframe damage. Now, that's important because the airframe can take a lot more beating before you start getting into this. Whereas if you can cut off the wings and start doing damage, you're in a good spot. And if you aim at the wings, it's more likely you'll hit the engines, and those go in and up, and then they fall out of the sky. So there's a lot of cool decision making about how you attack, what you attack, where and when. And that's something that I loved about this game, is it took something that is literally like a 1.5 second burst of a cannon, and it made it really, really meaningful. So that's something that I really, really have enjoyed about playing this game, and I cannot wait to just put this out and play more and more and more. So I know this is a big hot mess right now, but this has been an unboxing for Night Fighter Ace from Compass Games, and go and get this game. If you like those solitaire style games, this is going to be right up your alley. This is a total blast to play. So thank you very much for watching.